Asexual reproduction is a method that we can use to be able to produce a large number of plants cheaply through taking advantage of some of the different methods that plants have to divide themselves and cover the ground quickly in nature. So the different techniques, they all involve taking some tissue from a parent plant and creating lots of copies of that parent plant that are all genetically identical to that parent plant. So the advantage is, if you find a plant that you like the characteristics of, you can use these techniques to create a large number of those plants cheaply and easily. So depending on the type of plant, different techniques can be used. So the cuttings is normally one of the first techniques you move towards, because there's different types of cuttings for different types of plants. So if it's a herb or a shrub, you'd use a softwood cutting. If it's a deciduous tree, you'd use a hardwood cutting. If it's ornamental type plant, you'd often use a leaf cutting. So there's a range of techniques within cuttings that you can use. The first one, which is a softwood cutting, is just breaking off a side shoot from the shrub or the herb and sticking that into a free draining, well aerated rooting medium. So a fine gravel is quite a good choice for that, and that will, and you got to keep it wet. So you normally just use a little mister, or you can either set it up in a glass house with automatic mister, or you can just get a little spray can and you can spray it with that and keep it moist that way. But you've got to maintain a moist environment within the rooting medium that will encourage the roots to grow from the base of the cutting. And then for that to happen before the plant uses up the store of sugars within that cutting and dies, you've also got to keep it warm, and that will ensure that the plant will grow roots quickly enough that it can establish that root system, draw up water and nutrients from its environment to support further growth of shoots, which will then develop leaves, and it will start to photosynthesize and produce sugars to further encourage root growth. So when you do a cutting, it's good to have a couple of nodes on it. So about 4 nodes is a good choice, and the bottom node, which you cover in the rooting medium, will grow roots from it, and then the top 2 nodes will grow side shoots, which will develop leaves, which will start to photosynthesize. And a softwood cutting is a cutting where there's actually a couple of leaves already on those side shoots, which will already be photosynthesizing and producing some sugars to it. A hardwood cutting doesn't have any leaves on it. You take it in the middle of winter, and it's a deciduous tree. So that means a deciduous tree loses its leaves in winter. So that is a good choice for a slow growing deciduous tree. And you take a section of its stem, again with 3 or 4 roots, and you plant it out in the field in the middle of winter, and then slowly during winter the stem can draw upon its store of sugars within it to slowly start developing these roots, which will start to accelerate in growth in spring and then summer. So you've got to keep this sheltered and protected during summer so it doesn't dry out. But then by the end of summer, you should have quite a good root system established on these stems, and you can dig out that and pot it up to be transplanted where you want it. So being kind of a semi-hibernating version of this tree as a hardwood cutting, it's a good technique for a slow-growing tree. The other one's a leaf cutting, so that works quite well with some of the ornamental plants with soft, large leaves. And you take a section of that leaf and you pin it into your rooting medium, and some of them will start to grow roots and shoots from that that will develop in a few months in spring and summer into a baby plant that you can then transplant out. Not many of them do it. Some of them, like a geranium, that are really robust, vigorous vegetative growth, so they grow really quickly and easily. Those are the kind of plants that you can do this with, but there's not many that you can. Most of those kind of ornamental plants are best grown from seed. Some of the setups you can use to grow cuttings, these softwood cuttings, more so than any of the others, is to put your rooting medium in a tray and put your cuttings into that tray and put a little glass house on top of that, so that when you spray it with your mister, the glass house will help to hold in the humidity and also keep it warmer. And then you can sit that tray with the glass house on it onto a little heat mat. So we're talking about a unit about that big, and then that heat mat will produce a supply of warmth. And with this technique you can grow a softwood cutting at any time of the year, because you've got the humidity and the warmth that is required for good root growth. And then again, if the lighting's not good, you'd also benefit from having a good fluorescent plant grow lux type lights to enable the leaves of the cutting to photosynthesize well and produce lots of sugars. Another setup is an aquaponics system, where if you've got a fish tank lying around, particularly a tropical one, you can put a tray with your fine gravel just sitting on top of the fish tank, as long as the water that goes through the tray falls back into the fish tank rather than onto the floor. Or you can even create a little shelf above the fish tank, so that the water again just kind of drips down back into the fish tank. And then you can get little pumps that you can put in the fish tank that will pump water out of it and connect to a mister or a spray bar, which will keep this environment within the rooting medium nice and wet, and it will be warm as well if it's a tropical fish tank, which is ideal. And again, you can set up lights above that to encourage photosynthesis and leaf growth, or it might have nice natural lighting anyway. But that's quite a nice environment, because it always, without any effort of you to spray it or have to worry about maintaining the moisture levels, it will maintain a perfect moisture level all the time. There's the nutrients from the fish tank which will help stimulate the growth as well. So it's a self-sustaining system really. You can just stick your cutting in there and then walk away, and then come back a month later and it will be a nice little cutting that you can transplant out.